All right, welcome back into Indiebnb. Today I'm joined by Grayson Converse from the band Spooky Mansions, coming to us live from the Redwoods in Northern California. Grayson, how we doing, brother?
Rocking. Just finished a long day of work. Got back home. Chilling.
I love it. Well, we're rocking out to your music, this morning and during the day today and this past week, and we were excited to have you on. Want to talk through, some of the stuff that's coming up here in 24, but for you, we always want to start with kind of the formation and how things started for you. So with this project, what was the impetus of it?
So I went to college for music. I studied and got a degree in jazz piano.
Nice.
So my focus for years was just jazz. I was wearing tight suits and hanging out with a bunch of old weirdos who play jazz and living in San Francisco, going to the jazz clubs. And then I took a year abroad to France.
Mm-hmm.
Was playing music out there, and I got an acoustic guitar. And back when I was super young, when I first learned music, I had been playing guitar and writing songs, but I hadn't for years. And while I was over there, I started writing songs. And by the time I got back, I had called some friends and put together a little band and got back to the city, San Francisco, and we started jamming. Took a few years to write a good song, but the band existed. We were writing bad songs for a while.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about your y'all's name? Was there a spooky mansion that you guys went to write the songs? Or is there some kind of connection there?
There's a few stories that I tell in regards to that, but the truth is not that interesting. It was just there was another band in San Francisco called Grand Lodge, and I had we were talking about that band. I don't think they exist anymore. Me and a buddy had been talking about it, and we were trying to remember the name of that band, and I threw out Spooky Mansion. He's like, well, no, that's not it. And I was like, damn, well, is there any band called Spooky Mansion? And he's like, let me look. And so we're like, all right, we'll just call our band that. But I'm not sure. So it has no meaning, but everybody seems to assign it meaning, and people like the name, and they go, oh, I see why you named your band that. Totally get those vibes. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
That's awesome. I love it was this, I think, like that. I love it. I can hear that conversation happening and be like,
oh yeah. Two dumb 22-year-olds.
It's like, yeah, I think we should call our band that, though. It's sick.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, super excited to, listen to, a couple of songs. What About You and Saturdays, both are already out on this new upcoming LP. And I mean, yeah. I want to dive in on Saturdays. It really kind of caught my ear, and I want to hear from you. Just it'll be our song Spotlight, so people can listen to it in the description below. And
great.
Want to hear from you. How did that song, kind of come from nothing to something? Was that mainly you? Was it some of the other members of the band? What'd that look like?
Yeah, that was kind of a funny one. I was by that point I was living in LA, and I was working as a background actor to make some money. So basically, just the guy in a scene of a movie or a TV show that's sitting at a table in the far background pretending to chat. There's a lot of just sitting and pretending to talk to people. And this particular gig was kind of a weird. It was for country music TV or something. It was like they were trying to start like a sitcom about a country band, and I was in a bar scene in the background playing guitar, for some backing band. And so always with these gigs, it's they're always 12-hour days or 15-hour days sometimes, and there's nothing to do. You just chain smoke cigarettes and drink the free coffee and eat the free granola bars. And in this case, they were figuring out something with the director, and I was sitting there with my guitar plugged in, and I started doing that little jangly riff, digga-digga-digga-da-down, ba-digga-digga-da-down, ba-digga-digga-da-down. And I was like, oh, damn, that's kind of cool. What's that? And then they would go, okay, action, and then we'd have to like do our thing, and then they'd cut, and I'd go back to my riff, and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And when you get those little seeds, it's like you become totally obsessed. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And if you make any noise on stage, people are like, start calling you out. And so I kept getting these calls from the director. Okay, somebody on stage, maybe like, if you're making noise, please stop. So I was like over in the corner, like trying, like my ear next to the electric guitar, like trying to figure it out. And so after that long day, I got home and when I lived in Burbank, we built a music studio, and so I went out to the studio, and sometimes these songs take forever, and sometimes they just all come out at once, and that was one that just, I think probably that evening and the next morning I had written all the parts, and the song was basically done.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a feel good, and I was gonna literally, I wrote down that ripping guitar riff, like I wrote that down. It's like a thing to kind of get into, but that's so crazy. You wrote that on the as a background actor. That's awesome.
On country music television. Yeah,
Yeah.
the for the most part, these songs, the way our band has always worked is that I just write all the parts, guitar, bass, figure out the drum vibe, lyrics and melodies and stuff. And then I've always just recorded myself, so I'll put together demos. And usually, what we do, I usually will make a batch of demos, 5 to 12 songs, and then I mean I write even more, and then kind of take from that which ones are the ones that sound the best, and then bring that to the band. Everybody learns the parts, and it's always been that way. It's less of a democracy, more of my control freak nature taking over. And it's always worked because I don't know, the bands I've seen that are more democratic, they're a lot slower to produce music, and it just gets complicated with people's egos and stuff. But everyone sort of was down to go into the band with just the idea that, yeah, I'll play the thing that you write, and they're all super good at their instruments. So I'm not particularly good at anything, so I'm good at steering the ship. So I go, okay, here's the riff, and then my guitar player goes, okay, and then plays it, a million times better than I can play it. And so same thing with that song. I wrote it all out, and the guys came over one day, and we jammed it out, and it was like, well, that sounds pretty good.
Nice. Well, and then for What About You, that's your newest one that's out, and that's also the title of the album, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So for that one, like similar kind of feel. Probably not the background actor, riff
No.
that again, but
What About You? It's more rare. So usually when I'm writing songs, I start from like the ground up, like the rhythm section. I'll just put a simple drum beat, and then I'll start with a bass line. And I like each of the instruments to have their own little infectious melody. The bass lines are typically, its own melody, and then you have two guitar melodies going on, and the vocals, and then the drums. I want everything to have a little catch and hook to it. And so, but sometimes, very rarely, do I come up with like a concept ahead of time of like what the song's going to be. And with that one, it was after I had met the girl who's now my wife, and I had noticed we met like a month before COVID happened, and we had a bunch of dates, and we're just hanging out that whole month. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened, and she basically moved in, and now it's whatever, 5 years later, 4 years later, and but the kind of impetus for that song was we had gone on this date camping, and she's a very free spirit. Was always naked, and we went to the beach to camp. And in the morning, we woke up, and she's like, "Oh, let's go for a nude walk on the beach." And we had just met, so I was like, "Okay, sweet." And so we were walking down the beach, and I either go for I'm a pretty quiet guy, but when I get talking, and I started telling her these stories. That point in a relationship where you're like sharing all these stories that are these are the stories that make you who you are, and they just kind of come up always, like, oh, this happened when I was this age, blah blah blah. And so I was telling her all these stories, and she was just sort of listening and not really responding with anything. And it was cracking me up because, I've lived a fairly complex, strange life, and so my stories are all these crazy stories, which I kind of outline in the song. And then I would have to ask her, well, what about you? And she's just like a very outgoing, simple, sweet lady. And, she'd be like, oh, no, I got nothing like that. And so each verse of the song is kind of just touching on these little stories, that back in the 60s, my mom grew up in Manhattan, and her cousin would go to these hotels. She came from a very wealthy Manhattan family. And so her and her cousin Bob, would go to these hotels, and they were all dressed super nice, but they were actually just like hippie stoners. And they would go and into the lobby and just start taking out furniture and packing Bob's truck out front, because nobody would notice. Nobody was going to question them because they were they looked the part. And so I mentioned that, and my dad, when he was young, when he was like 15, he ran away from home, and he had grown up sailing, and eventually he ended up sailing around the world by himself in a sailboat. And but when he was 15, he ran away from home and was able to, I don't know what the ticketing was like back then, but he was able to get a flight to Hawaii, where he had some friends, and he flew out to Hawaii and lived out Lanai, I think. It's kind of like a jungly island, and he lived there in the jungle and was sailing and doing all that shit. So that was just a funny picture of him. So I mentioned that in the song, and so each verse is like presenting these stories, and then the refrain of, what about you? And the song basically ends, with saying, I guess what was so good about my relationship with her, and still is how much she contrasts that part of me. Maybe I live in these stories, and somewhat in the past, and define myself by these stories, and she's very like in the moment kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I said, I didn't even know that I could find a friend like you, and so I like that song because the verses are kind of introspective. There's this picking guitar, and it's thoughtful, and by the end, it's this anthemic, very uh, happy. There's like a jubilation at the end,
I love that. I love that. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I think my favorite part about doing this is hearing things like that, because then when I go listen to it again, and when our listeners listen to it, they have like the context, and they, you can kind of take something at face value whenever you hear, kind of music of the first time. But then when you hear the story behind it, I think it really, solidifies it. It makes it more fun for us to, to be the listener. So, I appreciate you sharing that. Like, that's awesome. I do want to talk through Vietnam. I mean, you mentioned Vietnam in a few of the songs. It's mentioned in Saturdays. You have the song on the 2021 album. First, I want to know who's on the album cover of that album. I couldn't tell if it was. It looks like Paul Heyman from WWE, but like I'm not sure who it is.
So that guy, he is a character in San Francisco going by the name Captain Kirk, and his name is James Kirk. And I met him, man, back in like 2009, and I was working at a coffee shop and sandwich shop, and I was like in back making sandwiches. And one day, that guy walked into the back, and he just has that face. It's just like this, just there's a story in every crevice of his face. Like, he's a weathered man. And so he walks in the back, and I'm making a sandwich. He goes, and he's got this great voice. He's like, "Hey man, yeah, just make me like a bacon ham sandwich or whatever." And so I'm like, "Is this a homeless man that just walked into the kitchen?" I'm like, "Who is this man?" But I was like, "I have to just make it, because if you're bold enough to walk back, you can have a sandwich." But it turned out that he was the handyman around there. So we got to talking, and he said, "Oh yeah, come by my house sometime." And so I took him up on it, and he's a crazy character. He's really old San Francisco, where there were a lot more of these kind of characters, and he was kind of one of the last bastions out in the sunset by the beach there. And so I went over to his house, and his mom lived upstairs, who was a little old, sweet woman named Mary Rose, and he lived downstairs, and they'd had that house, since whatever, the 60s or something. And he was taking me around, and it was just, its garage door is always open. Anybody can come in off the street. There's like string lights and crazy. There's like, I don't know, it's just like a little museum. People just walk in. Everybody knows Jim Kirk. You just walk into his garage, and it's like these little scenes, and it's hard to describe. You got to check it out. And then you walk back, and then there's this little secret door. And when you open the door, he's recreated a 2-scale model replica of the bridge from Star Trek. And so there's like all the dashboard of buttons and like lights. There's the captain's chair. There's a teleportation booth. Like, and you just walk. It's like the size of how it really is, And I don't know why he did it, but he did it. He has a bunch of Star Trek outfits. We would go over there and like drink and party, and everybody would dress up as Star Trek characters. And we have a song called "Disco Bitch," and we shot like a little short film in there. If you look up Disco Bitch on YouTube, it's like a 16-minute short film where Spooky Mansion is the aliens. We're all painted blue and we have these matching outfits. And then a friend of ours, their band Tino Dreama, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a great band too, but they are dressed as like the Star Trek people. And so it was just like, when you're that age and you have all this time and all this like artistic energy, I don't know why I put this together. It was fucking like, it took over my life for like 3 months doing this video. But it's a 16-minute film, and it has a storyline throughout the whole thing, and it starts with, the conflict happening, and then it just goes into our song, and then the music video for our song is in the same universe, and then it goes back to the storyline, and then it goes into Tino Dreama's song. And so it's like a music video with 2 different bands, 2 different songs. And then we ended up releasing like a 45, little record that has our song on one side and their song on the other side. All that to say, that's who Jim Kirk is. And so when I was living in SF, he would a lot of times introduce us when we were playing a show. He'd come on stage and he has all these different outfits. Sometimes he would dress as Indiana Jones and he had like a whip. Sometimes he would do full Jim Morrison from the Doors, like leather pants, and he would do Jim Morrison poetry, and then say, "Okay, this is Spooky Mansion." And so, so when we were doing this record, The Curse, we shot a video for that too. You can see on YouTube for the song "The Curse," where he is. It's like a parody of Unsolved Mysteries, and I forget what the host of this name is. But that's who he's dressed up as in that photo. And it's a great video, too. My buddy Gavin Murray shot that. And so we ended up shooting some stuff in like a photo studio. And we got some of those shots. And later on, I'm looking back through them, and I saw that picture, and I was like, wow, that is a beautiful picture of this man. So I was like, okay, let me just do the whole front of the cover of just this picture. You can just like study this man's face.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I asked because I knew you can't not see that and be like, who is that guy? What's the guy do? Wow, what an incredible tapestry there! Like you met him with the boldness coming into, hey, make me a sandwich, and now he's he's
still
partying in his house. He's got a full Star Trek bridge. I mean, like that was. You could write an album about that just experience. I feel like. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We still hang out, and I'll go to his birthday, or he'll have some parties and stuff. He came to my wedding. He was quite a character at the wedding because he's just like I love those guys. I have a few friends like that who are just older in their 60s, and they're just like a guy that works for my construction company. They're just like these guys that, for whatever reason, they just have like the soul of a child and like this youthful like energy and like starry-eyed view of the world, and you don't want to stop them from their beautiful artistic journey, and you just kind of they're crazy guys. You can't hang out with them every day.
Yeah.
but yeah, so he's a cool dude.
I love that. I love that. Well, kind of you mentioned a couple videos within there, and I did want to bring up Saturday's video. It looks like you shot that, like, I mean,
Yeah,
probably near where you live. If it
that's
felt like
basically
that.
my backyard. Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
like a minute away from my house.
Yeah.
And we moved out here. It's called Rio Nito, and it's that's where we go to swim in the summer. And we have my wife and I have paddle boards, and my dog gets on the paddle board, and we just float down the river. And but I was just down there, and I was like, damn, this is a pretty low budget uh, music video, just shooting it right here. And that was Gavin Murray too, who shot the Curse video.
Mhm.
He came up and shot this. And yeah, in the past, all our videos, we have a lot of videos, and I used to really write out storylines and have them be
Mhm.
real complex. This one was a little more straightforward, like just let the scenery speak for itself. And but yeah, it turned out well, and I think it goes with the feeling of that song well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I can feel myself like on a Saturday,
Yeah,
going to the water and go and get on the paddleboard and
yeah,
let's float down the river. I mean, I think
pretty much.
that does give me that feeling. So,
Yeah,
mission accomplished there. With with you guys, on the live set stuff, trying to, you know, take the music from the studio into the, into a in person, kind of feel like, what is something like, I've never seen you guys. I haven't had the pleasure. Like, what is something people can expect? I know you guys have a tour coming up with, a couple of our East Coast buddies with Stoplight Observations.
right.
So what does somebody expect, for you guys, going to see you live?
Our live shows are super fun. It's everybody's having a good time. There's lots of dancing happening. Um, the music, this last record kind of captures our live sound the best. I've experimented over the years. I have, some disco songs, and like our most played song is like a hip hop song that I wrote in my garage one day. And for whatever reason, that took off and became the most famous one, unfortunately, because I never feel like playing a hip hop song. It doesn't really fit with our sound anymore. But our live sound is much more like 70s rock and roll, feel good. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. Nobody else in the band likes them. They actually dislike them. But I've been able to get that kind of mindset into the band. And we've been playing together for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are all super good musicians. And so slowly over time, it's just evolved into a lot of jamming and a lot of just kind of letting the music take us wherever we go. So the songs are never, exactly the same when we play them. The maybe the tempo's different or something like that. But also we'll go off and just musically explore and jam. And I think from playing together, and they're also my closest friends, and we lived together for years. Um, we're able to just understand each other real well musically, and so without any eye contact, uh, we can just communicate with one another. And we just played a show in San Francisco a few weeks ago. We were headlining a festival there that was pretty cool, and we're playing the song, and we're getting to this point where the music goes rubato. There's no more beat behind it. It's just it goes as slowly as I choose to play, and then after that section is going to be a big guitar solo. So I have my eyes closed and I'm playing that rubato section, and I just happen to open my eyes as we're getting to the end, and I look, and our guitarist is coming back on stage because apparently he had broken a string, and he had to run and grab a string from off stage, and now he's coming back, and I hadn't even realized it, and I was like, oh shit, he's going to take 2-3 minutes to change that. And so as we're reaching the end of this rubato section, it's like, well, that guy's he has to play this guitar line next, and he can't. So what the hell's going to happen? And so I hit the last rubato chord, and I just kind of look at everybody, and then I a moment of clarity, and I just start playing something else, and nobody else comes in, and I just start basically making up a song on the spot, and I just start playing a chord progression, and then chord progression goes around once, and then I just start singing lyrics and melody that are just being made up on the spot, and it goes around again, and then drums and bass understand what's going on, and the next time it goes around, the drums and bass come in, and now they're playing the new song, and we get up, and now it's the part that you would expect a chorus to come in, so I just start singing a chorus, and we're all now it gets a little louder, and we're rocking, and in just perfect timing, the chorus is over. That guy's guitar is fixed, and he comes in with a guitar solo on this brand new made up song, and we do that for another minute, and then we stop, and then we go back into the song that we had been playing.
Just
So
the ad lib. I mean, it's
yeah,
unbelievable. Like
exactly.
just getting the getting that
And
right. I mean,
it's your dream is that everybody is understanding and speaking the same language, and those kinds of problems, those things have come up before in life when we were younger, and then it just falls apart,
yeah,
And if a guy breaks a string, now what do? And you say something weird on the mic, oh haha, and it's just the energy's weird. But now that we've been playing together so long, we understand each other. Nobody knows the thing. Everybody's just like, oh, this is a cool thing. It's a cool part of this song that goes into a different song. And so I'm very thankful for that, because those are like the high points in
yeah,
music. And I wouldn't want to just be on stage playing the same songs again. It's the hard part of being a musician is you end up playing the same songs forever.
yeah.
But so if there's a way to inject, something genuine and unique at each show, it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think like those are the types of things you kind of crave as an audience. Like, I mean, I've seen some people where I've been like, man, like I that was great, and I was glad to hear it live, but like it sounded just like the CD. I mean, like it sounded just like how
Yeah,
like I kind of you kind of want that experience and having something like that happen. I mean, I think
totally.
my best music memories are all people who are are from concerts and like kind of that live music setting of like, oh yeah, I remember that happened, and then the guitar, like that is something that you don't forget, right? And that's what kind of makes a
Totally.
person a fan versus kind of the
Yeah,
you
and a
know
lot of the feedback we get after shows is like people because a thing like that puts everybody on the edge of their seat. Like it's palpable, like the tension and like the I don't know. It's like everybody's exploring something together, and whether they or not they know technically what's happening, they're like feeling something. And so afterwards, everyone's just like you. I look at it, every audience, everybody has a big smile on their face, and
Mhm.
whether they're dancing or just standing there. Um, Everybody's having a lot of fun and is having a unique experience, and that's was always my goal, and so I'm happy to be doing music like that. And yeah, like you said, not people just going, oh yeah, that sounds like the band that I listen to on Spotify. Instead, they're like, it actually doesn't sound like the band, because I was listening to this hip hop song, but now I'm stoked to see them anyways. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a universally, cool thing to have that kind of shared moment and shared space. I mean, I
totally.
haven't been, I haven't been in any live music in a little bit, so I'm kind of itching to get back
Mhm.
in there. But
Oh yeah,
so you guys are out with, stoplight observations, for the next, it looked like the next month or so. So we'll definitely have y'all's, link in the bio on any of the, dates, and we'll pull your website up there and all that stuff, and so we'll
sweet.
get them right. But want to switch gears into something a little bit more silly. Pete Peterson's
Okay.
party pack of questions. The
All right. I've been waiting to find out.
we're going from the live set to the live silliness here. So,
All right.
um, Pete Peterson's party pack of questions. It's going to be a this or that question. I'll give you the warning up front. Last question is about bands that we ought to check out that we might not know. I know
Okay.
you've mentioned a couple things, so we'll get into that. But Pete
Yeah.
Peterson's party pack questions: cake or pie? Start us off. Grayson Converse, cake or pie? Go.
Oh, I'm a pie guy. Apple crumble.
Apple crumble. I love that. All right. Salad or soup?
I like a nice crunchy salad.
All right. He's a cruncher. All right.
Yeah.
Home run or touchdown? What would you like to do more of?
Oh, dang. I don't care about either of those things. Home run or touchdown? Give me a home run.
Yeah.
Seems very American.
Crack of the bat. We love it.
Yeah.
All right. What are you having more of these days? A night in or a night out?
A lot of nights in.
Nights in.
Yeah,
Okay.
small town, quiet. Gets dark out here in the forest.
I hear you. When you do go out, though, maybe you're in LA or on tour, and your
Yep.
jam comes on. Are you more likely to hit the robot or the worm in the middle of the dance floor?
I guess robot. Worm's a little dangerous, and you really have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, everybody's going to be watching.
Yeah. All right. Guac or queso, your favorite Tex-Mex spot?
Oh, I want guacamole. Queso doesn't interest me at all. I find that very gross.
I like it. Okay.
Hot cheese? Yeah. No, I like the freshness of a cold guacamole.
Cold guac. All
And
right.
you know what? Speaking of guacamole, um, our friend is the daughter of Michael McDonald. You know Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers and everything.
Yumby.
Yeah,
Yumby.
yeah, coolest guy ever. But um, I name drop him because it gives more charm to this. He makes guacamole, the best guacamole, and what he puts in it are pomegranate seeds. So you're like, you got this with the guacamole flavor, and then you just get these little explosions of pomegranate sweetness in
I've
there.
never thought that would go together, but
Uh,
that sounds like it could be a charming. I like
yeah,
that. I need
yep.
to try that. Okay, Michael
Right now, it's
McDonald's
from the Doobie Brothers.
guacamole. Get it in there. All right. Waffles or pancakes in the morning time?
I want a waffle.
Okay. Waffling it up. Coffee or tea with your waffle?
Definitely coffee. I get jittery with tea.
Oh, interesting. All right. Dogs or cats? I know you mentioned a dog earlier, but
I do have the dog Moose that lives with me. 70-pound baby. He's a spoiled only child, so I think I have to go dogs.
he's going dogs. All right. Are you more like a ninja or a pirate, would you say?
Ooh, that is a good question. Probably a pirate. A lot. I'm more clumsy and loud and uh, dirty and smelly.
All right. We like it. Followed up by a good question, followed up by a terrible question. Gatorade or Powerade?
Oh, Gatorade.
Gatorade.
I
All
like
right.
zero sugar. What's it? Cucumber lime. I
Oh,
drink one of
all
those
right.
a day on the job.
I love that. Toast or bagels?
Thank you for asking. The I've been eating toast for the last few years, and I treated myself. My wife does the shopping. I was out of the store, and I treated myself to a thing of everything bagels. I've been popping off with those.
Oh, he might be converting. He's a bagel.
Yeah, it's hard to
Coming
say.
back. All right. Chips or pretzels?
Got my pretzel crisps right here.
All right.
Flat pretzel crisps, also everything flavored.
Yeah. Everything seasoning. I agree. I'm all in on everything. I love
My,
the taste.
my wife took over the flavors in our household because she gets the Trader Joe's everything like seasoning.
Oh yeah.
So no matter what meal you make, it just tastes like sesame seeds and garlic.
I do it on eggs. I've done it on a lot of stuff. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Fries or tots?
I do like a good tot. Harder to find. Yeah, classic cafeteria tot. I think
Yeah.
is probably as good as it gets.
Yeah, definitely. All right. TV show or a movie after a long day at work?
It's a big battle with me and the wife because I swear she's a smart woman, but you would think she's completely brain dead because of the TV she watches. All reality shows going at all times, the most mind-numbing stuff. And so when I can get her to sit still for a little bit and put a movie on, I'm happy. We just watched The Hustler. You ever seen that one? It's
No.
it's Paul Newman. It's from the '60s. It's a great black and white movie, and he's like Paul Newman is like the hottest guy ever, and he's like a pool shark. It's very cool.
Oh, interesting. I know him from his ranch, but
Oh yeah, he's got a good ranch. Back in the day, he was
his
blue-eyed
dressing.
beauty.
All right. Are aliens real?
Aliens are probably real, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a big subject of conversation when we're on tour.
Okay. This one's gonna be one I don't I didn't know you were located, but like Redwoods area, is Bigfoot real?
Oh, hard to say. I'm not in Bigfoot country. Um, it's hard to say because at first I would say yes, and then I would say no because what are the chances that this hasn't been encountered in some provable way? But
Yeah,
then once you move out to the woods, you really get a sense for how big they are. And like in California, I always consider myself way northern California. But if you look on a map, there's like another, you know, just as much almost as SoCal of just forest that goes from here all the way up to Oregon and through Oregon. So it's possible.
okay. Yeah, it's a tough. We have the North Georgia mountains, and we have some Bigfoot. There's some
Oh,
Bigfoot lore here.
is there
Yeah.
really?
So I don't know. It's interesting kind of dynamic.
Georgia
Um,
seems cool. I was trying to convince my wife to move there before we moved here. I was trying to get out of California so I could afford a house,
yeah,
and Georgia was on the list.
I love it. Well, whenever you're here, let us know.
It's
All
cool
right.
out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good. North Georgia's got a lot of character. There's Helen. There's a lot of German influence up there, and
Oh, okay.
so it's kind of an interesting kind of scape, if you will.
Cool.
But love at first sight. Is that real?
I think so. I guess I experienced it. Yeah, my wife. I met her on Hinge, and I thought I was just gonna bang a hot chick. And I invited her to this dive bar in LA called the Drawing Room, which is a very cool place, very dimly lit. And so I was in my, tortured artist mode, leaning over the bar, being Mr. Cool. And then she walked in and was like the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. And she sat down and she's very extroverted and started, you know, already in the middle of a conversation, and I like sat straight up and I was like, oh fuck, like I gotta play this good. Like I gotta make sure this goes well. And it was funny because she was like, we had a couple drinks and she's like, I want to go to the Black Cat, which is like a more hip bar. But I knew that out front I had driven my 1996 Honda Odyssey minivan, which
Mm.
was in disrepair, not the sexiest vehicle. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to like drive her over to this hip bar in my minivan that had automatic sliding doors, if you remember those.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool. But so I was scared, and so I had to explain as we were walking out. I don't have a Mustang out there, but it worked out because she was like, "Oh, I love this. This is so cool and retro." So it was love at first sight.
There you go. I love that. That's a good little meet cute. Now,
Yeah.
final question. Pete Peterson's party pack of questions.
Yes,
A
sir.
couple bands, two bands that we might not know that we ought to check out.
One band that's super cool that we came up with is Tino Dorima, and Drima, and that guy who's the singer and songwriter is one of my closest buddies, and we went to college together and came up in SF for years, and he's in LA now. Super cool band. And speaking of what's his name, Michael, who did I just mention from the Doobie Brothers?
Michael McDonald.
Yeah, Michael McDonald. Speaking of him, they did a song together recently this year.
Oh, cool.
And because my buddy Tina Dream is a great songwriter, really good singer, and like I said, we're friends with his daughters, so they ended up writing a song together and performing. So that's a band to check out. Another one, maybe from back in the day, I mentioned this in another interview I did, but I keep listening to it. Is if you've ever heard of the Turtles?
No.
They're a great band from like the 60s. Very cool sound. And they had this great record called Battle of the Bands Presents the Turtles. Or the Turtles Present the Battle of the Bands, something like that. But they're a hilarious band. They're amazing songwriters and musicians. And there's some of the songs on that record are just like these beautiful, well-crafted, amazing songs. And then a bunch of it is just this crazy, weird music. They were probably 22 years old, just being goofballs writing crazy music. But I like those guys a lot, and still super hip, like relevant music, and nice to just go back to those old bands because for some reason everybody was just so good at music back then. I think you just had to be good. Now you can just kind of be on your computer and make yourself sound better. But those guys, you got one chance to play the song, and so everybody was so good.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we got the Tino Dreamer and the Turtles. We'll have to check out that Tino Dreamer Michael McDonald collab.
Yeah.
That'll be the first one I check out for sure.
Nice.
So, well, cool. Well, Grayson, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show here. And Spooky Mansion. We got What About You LP coming out on Halloween of this year. So
That's
October
correct.
31st, be on the lookout. Go follow them on Spotify because then you don't have to worry about when it comes out. They'll tell you when it comes out. They'll tell you. It's going to be there for you.
Right.
But go stream all their songs. Go stream Saturdays. Go stream What About You? Go stream Vietnam. Obviously we got the story behind Captain Kirk. I mean, gotta love that. And so we'll definitely be looking forward to the Spooky Mansion debut in Atlanta coming soon hopefully.
That.
So
Awesome.
let's get you out here. Let's get you. We'll take you to a couple dimly lit dive bars around here, and
please see if we can find Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it, buddy.
You got it. Thanks, Grayson.